Hi, Internet viewers. Frank Rauscher. Again, we finally finished the Kinglet, and I've been getting requests on patterns and where do I get them. And in most cases, I develop the patterns myself. And I'm going to try to explain to you how I create the pattern, what's my general thought process. One of the things I want to explain to you right off is that the best way to, and this isn't really the best way, but I used to be able to borrow skins of a bird. Okay, and there are people that have collections. If you have like I live just outside of Philadelphia, and they have a museum, a history museum, and they have stuffed animals and birds and what have you. And I was able to borrow from them. I think they do rent them out, cost some money right now. But if you have a chance to get one, and if you could get a mounted one, that's great. And that helps too. Okay, if you can get a taxidermied one and everything else. The only thing I'm going to tell you is it's only as good, the taxidermied bird, if the person knows the bird or what they're doing, okay? Because it's not a live shape, and you're trying to make it look real. And in some cases, it's well done, and in other cases, it isn't. I had been at one time given a mounted raccoon, modeled it from that to do a carving, and found out that the rear end of the raccoon is much wider than the front end. And my, what's the name, stuffed animal that I had at that time was not right. So, and of course I modeled it and thought that was okay, and it looked okay, but in reality, as time goes on, you learn about the animals and stuff like that. I did a lot of photography work along the way, and your eye sort of gets trained to how you perceive different animals, birds, and so on. So it's the one great thing today, and I'm going to give you recommendations, is that the internet, you call up any bird you want just about and ask for a picture of it, you're going to get 1,000,000 of them, or you'll get a lot. And that is a great reference point. I've been fortunate enough to be able to draw decently, and the biggest problem you're going to have when you're creating birds, especially, is making sure you get the width right. The length is going to be somewhat easy. I have reference books like you wouldn't believe. This is one of them here. And none of these are have to be the end all, but, and here's another one, okay? And I've got a zillion more, okay? But what it does tell you in here, it usually gives you the length of the bird, okay, that you're looking for, especially like North American birds, which is what these two books are. And I usually do those. And they'll give you a length, but it's doesn't have to be exacting. You can shorten it up a little bit, and you can make it a little bigger too, okay? But you can use that length as a guide to set up your parameters to make the profile for the bird, okay? And what I'm going to try to do is show you how I go about making a profile. And then when I do that, the biggest thing, I can't really give you the numbers because it isn't always out there, is the width of the bird, okay? It's a thing you sort of, your eye gets trained to maybe certain measurements. I can't say I'm exacting, but I take my best shot at it, okay? And that's how I develop it. Now, if you can get like a pose where you can sort of determine about what the width may be to the scale you're looking at it in the picture and stuff like that, then you can get close, okay? Now, I think it's the Cornell University has an ornithology department. I think it's them, don't hold me to this. And they probably have the birds information to no end. Now, I would check with them. I believe I have the right university, at least I hope I do. And if I don't, if somebody could let me know that, I'll re-reference what I just told you here to give you the right information. But I think they've done the major studies of most birds and have all this stuff down. But I don't have, I've never used them, but that's not saying you can't, or hey, go for it. You know, get as much information as you can. And that information is valuable for you. So I'm sort of guessing on the width a lot of times, but if you have something that they actually took a measurement from like a real bird, boy, that's exacting, and that'll really help you out a lot. So I'm going to just show you some of the ways I develop things. Now, we just got done the kinglet, and on that kinglet, I did a couple of things, and it's not that apparent, but I'll hold the sheet up here. The head on this kinglet, when I did it, I raised the head a little higher. Sometimes birds are straight out, and sometimes they're looking down slightly. The tail sometimes could be down too. You know, see how the slope of the back here is? It could be right off of that. It could be right off these, right in here, just slightly below that. And that's a typical pose for certain birds, okay? But I've changed things around. This is what you call a drop wing. Now, what's notorious for a drop wing is a robin. Inevitably, when you see it on your lawn and you get your eye trained to what you're looking at, the robin always has its wings dropped low, okay? And they're sort of listening for the worms or whatever they're doing, and you'll see their wings are dropped down. But in the case of the kinglet, it's not always that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redo this several ways and show you how to change this bird, okay? Now, I'm going to do it on the kinglet, but you can use this same approach to a lot of other birds. I've done some crazy things with positions of birds. And let me tell you, birds can get into a lot of crazy situations, okay? So I just wanted to show you, I'm going to use this as an example, okay? And then we'll go off and I'm going to show you how I sort of develop things. And this isn't the end all, but the more reference material you have and and getting your eye trained to what you're seeing is really helpful. I've been, I'll say, somewhat blessed that I I could draw, and that's helpful. Okay, for those who aren't, uh, there are. Uh, I make up patterns galore, and most of my patterns are very reasonable. You may pay a little bit more, and there's other sources out there for bird patterns, okay? And you search around. I'm trying to think of a few that I used to reference, but a lot of times, even with them, you're interpreting things anyway, okay? But it'll sort of give you some layouts of the feathering and stuff like that. If you look at the front end of most books, and I'm going to pull this one out. Let's see if I can just grab things here. And what it does, it talks about the anatomy of birds and the parts of the bird. And that's the thing. Here it is here. This is a bird, and it identifies all the different parts of the bird, okay? We all understand like the beak and what have you and everything else, but you get into the, you know what the tail is, you know what the head is most of the time, you know what the beak is, but then you get into the breast feathers. Then when you get into the wings, you have primaries, which are the end ones on the very end of the wing, and then the next portion in, which is the next level, is secondaries, and then there's, I believe, tertiaries, if I'm not, if I get that right. I don't know. And then there's shoulders. Then there's a mantle up in here. So when you get a book that's identifying birds, look at this because it's helpful. And these are usually in families. So if you can get into this book and then you see that this bird belongs into a certain group, that if you look at the birds that you may have pictures of, or it's in a book, and you could sort of determine the width somehow or another, because a lot of times they want to give it to you in profile. But if you want to develop it more to get that width, you may get a chance to take measurements, okay? And that's helpful. But these are the parts of the bird you should know. And I know I get into these coverts and so on. You'll hear me saying that and stuff like that. I don't know. To this day, I call this area that comes off of the beak and circles around and comes back to the eye. I always call it. Let's see what they say it is. I don't think they really done it. The nobe, I don't know if N-O-P-E, the nope. Not sure what that means, but I always call it my cheek. That's what I identify it to. I don't think that's the proper name of that, but that's my reference to it. I call it the cheek area, and you'll see me as I try to describe it to you that we get into the cheek area, and there's a certain length to that. And a lot of times you're taking an eyeball or some dimensional length that you measure, even from the page here, and then determine how long it may be, in actuality. And that's what I do. And a lot of you don't even want to get into this and just buy the pattern, okay? So I do sell patterns of my own, and I develop them. But over the years, I've done cardinals 10 different ways to Sunday, okay? because birds tend to they're moving. They're always changing position and what have you. And I have turned a cardinal's head 90 degrees from where it was looking like it was going. Okay, if it was in a straight line from the tail to right through the beak, that is one direction you could keep it. But they always look too stiff. So whenever you get a pattern from me and a blank, you're going to see that the head's turned, because it gives it a lot of movement in the piece. It's eye pleasing, and it's the way the birds are. Because birds don't always see everything straight in front of them. They got to turn their heads slightly, okay? A woodcock is notorious for having the eyeballs way back here, and they see out this way, and they see backwards too. So different birds have different setups, but for the most part, you get to learn that, okay? And you try to proportion everything the way it should look, okay? And there is a lot of good patterns out there. A lot of good reference books. I'm going to give you just a couple, okay? Rosalind Daisy has put out books for carving, and she does a fantastic job of patterns and stuff like that for the birds that she does. I would always say, hey, go look at her book. She usually does about 5 birds per book, and she gives you a lot of information in between that and the whole bit. And she really does a super job on that. And I had talked about publishing a book myself, never got around to doing it, but she has done an excellent job. Even on the painting of it, she has the patterns that are also painted, and she describes every step of the painting and stuff like that. So I'm getting you there. When I do it in a video, you're actually seeing somebody do it. In her books, there's a lot of pictures, and you, like with all things, you have to read between the lines. And it's not that it isn't that hard to understand. It's if you have done it before, you sort of can gather how to do it. But there's a little bit of a learning curve. And my approach to doing a bird is I shape the body as you see. Once we get the blank going, I usually round the blank over so it gets a shape that looks like the bird. And then I start from the head, because to me, the head is what makes the bird. Okay, that's me. Now, I believe at times she starts from the rump. And everybody has a different approach to it. And I'm not saying mine's the perfect one. It isn't. So I just want to let you know that there's a lot of different ways of attacking the building up of the bird, okay? And you got to do your research. But a lot of you want to carve and not get into the research. So if you ever get patterns from me, you're always going to see where I usually do it to scale. Almost everything I do is to scale. Now, I've done like great horned owls, and I tell you, it's only a quarter scale. That means the bird was 20 inches long, but I only did a quarter of it, okay? And I do it smaller so that you could put it on a mantle or something like that. You may not want to do a 20-inch long bird, and it's hard to position it, and maybe you want to do that. So if you ever want to get into reality, you could get my pattern, stick it on a printer, and increase it that other 3/4, and then make, you'd have to piece it together, because unless your printer's really big, you could make a full-sized owl, okay? But on most of the songbirds, they're smaller. And I'm using this one as an example anyway. He's probably one of the smaller birds we got, and I'm going to go with this one, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to show you that in a minute here. But I want to at least give you an idea of how I approach this. And for those who don't want to play with this, I have patterns available. There are a lot of good books out there that have patterns. I'm trying to think of, I wish I should have done my homework here and give you a lot more reference books and stuff like that. There's a book on owls that a Canadian author put out, and that was excellent. That was, I forget what owls he did. And then, I can't, there's a woman out there who has done like a snowy owl, a screech owl. Excellent, excellent book, okay? And Corey or somebody, I think it is, or something like that. I apologize for not giving that information. I'll try to get that and put it into the body of this video. And so you have some reference material to go to as far as books go. But there's a lot. There is a lot. You just got to sort of do your homework and get to your library, see what's available, or search out the books. The biggest problem, if you're trying to buy online, you're not looking at the book. You're only seeing what you can see, and it's very little. So you really have to get the book in front of you to see if it's worthwhile. I have a lot of duck patterns and stuff like that. And there's some excellent books out there on decoys and so on, stuff like that. I used to sell a lot of books, but I don't have them anymore. So I just want to, you can get patterns. And if you're really between a rock and a hard place and you're looking for something and you don't see it in my repertoire of patterns that I have available, contact me and I'll try to at least guide you where you can get them. And like I said, I think it's Cornell University. I believe they are the ones that really has a lot of stuff. So check them out too. But let me take you down. I'm going to move the camera down and I'm going to show you how I develop. At least this is on the kinglet, but it works for a lot of birds, okay? And expanding it. So I'm going to show you different things that I've done over the years, and we'll try to guide you to be able to do it yourself, okay? So bear with me, and I'll be right back. Oh, the other thing I also wanted to mention too, got to get the commercial in here. I would ask you, if you are enjoying my videos as we go, I would ask you to also give me a thumbs up on me. That's sort of like a rating for YouTube. And, excuse me. And from that, if you can subscribe to my channel, if you like what you're seeing and it's helpful to you, I'd appreciate that. Also, I gladly would take any contributions that anybody would like to send me. It's helpful to keep going. And I just want to let everybody know that I also have a catalog that lists all these patterns I talk about, but I have kits with it that comes with the feet, the eyes, the pattern, and a basswood blank. And in some cases, for some people, I could also provide like Tupelo or something like that. I don't always have that much around, but I do have a little bit. So if you're looking for something in a different medium other than basswood, I do have some Tupelo. And if you want any of this information, the catalog I have, it's about maybe 7 pages long. You can write to me to my email address, and that's Rauscher, Rauscher, Frank, Frank 7 @gmail.com, and I can get your email that way, and then I can email you directly the catalog, okay? And it's not real long, and you can peruse through it, and if there's something you need, great. And if you don't see everything there, I do have other items that I'm selling, but I don't advertise everything, okay? I used to have a website before, but I stopped doing that. So, but I will, and if I don't have something, I will guide you to where I think is a good buy, okay, if that's helpful to you too. So I just want to let you know that too as part of the information. And yeah, and like I said, and if you also have a friend that may be interested in wanting to do some of the things I've produced, the videos and so on, if you could pass my information on to them, that helps me grow my channel, and I appreciate that as well. So just end of the commercial, and then we'll get into doing patterns, okay? And we'll try to maybe educate you a little bit, okay? And this isn't the end all. Always remember the people that are out there that you see, that you really like some stuff. Talk to them. Learn from everybody, because that's how I learned too, okay? And this just didn't happen overnight. And if I make things, when I am doing videos, make it look simple, it isn't. It takes a little time. I didn't do things perfectly when I first started out, so I'll let you know that right off. So, hang in there. It comes with practice. And like everything, the more you do, the better you get. And you may be that one in so many that's so talented that you could hit it off maybe the first time, okay? That happens. And I've had that, I've seen that because I used to run classes that I taught several people, and some people are just really adept at learning fast and then going with it. So, but stay with it, because I've seen people develop, as they've done. I've had people for like 25 years that stayed with me, and they really got good. I mean, so it's a learning process, but you learn, and you can do it. You can do it, and you get better. And I know I've threatened to publish a few people's pictures and stuff like that, and I may get around to doing that. I'm a real good procrastinator, but one of the fellows, maybe a couple of years ago, won I think he won second best in show or something like that, and first in category with the Ren he did, and it was excellent. Really, it was right up there. So, the more you work at it, the better you get. So, some are more creative than others, but hey, listen, I thought my first one was the best thing since sliced bread, and it wasn't. And years later, I look back, and you live and you learn. So, hang in there and keep practicing, okay? So let me bring down the camera one more time, and we'll see if we can't get you on patterns. Okay, now here's a kinglet pattern, which we just got done doing. And I did a lot of things on this bird that you don't see that I did in the beginning, okay? I wanted to have a look of the bird, have the head up. So if you look at where the beak is going in this direction, like up here, this head is like angling high, okay? And if I brought in like a chickadee, which is another bird I've done, and this is another pattern, the head, or where the beak is going, where the line, I call it a beak line, that's what I build everything off of, is going this way, and it's straight out, okay? So I try to position the head in different directions, but maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse here. I want to show you the real limiting factor on this. Here's what I'm going to do. I get tissue paper or tracing paper, doesn't matter. Something that you can lay over like a pattern or something like that to change things, okay? And that's how I developed these drawings on the paper here, on this tracing paper. Now, if you look in the book gives me a certain measurement, and I'm going to get this one, and I used a measurement for this bird from the tip of the beak to the tail, and this is the one we did just recently. It's this here, and it's actually this one right here, okay? Now, what I did is I drew a line straight down, like so, okay? And then I measured straight over. In the case of this one, I used like 3.5 inches. I think the book says it's around 3.5 or 4 inches for the length of the bird. I happen to pick 3.5. And at this point, I put a mark, and I made this line and this line parallel to each other, and you come up with this. Okay, now, that is the length of the bird, okay, that you see referenced in the book. And it's usually from the tip of the beak to the tail, okay? But depending on how you position this, you can change all of this, okay? Now, I give you a pattern when you get something from me, and it has measurements. And this is all to scale, okay? Mostly everything you get has a scale on it. And if not, I usually tell you up here, I should say scale, okay? But if it's a half scale or something like that, I'll try to tell you that most of the time. But most of the small birds, they're full scale. They're full scale, so you're copying what the size of the bird is, okay? But you can change this bird 10 different ways to Sunday, okay? There's nothing that says the bird can't move with its wings, with its head, and so on. And I'm going to try to show you that if I can. Now, let's say the head. And I was talking about that before. I took an approach that the head was going through the beak and coming back this way. So it had what I call like an upper look to the bird going in this direction, okay? But like I was showing you with a chickadee, he's like going out this way, okay, and not up this way. I could have changed it to get him to go up looking. It just depends on the pose you want to get with the chickadee, okay? And I'm going to try to show you different things you can do to change the bird, okay? Now, say the head. Now, when you get a pattern with me, years ago, here was the center line of the bird, and it used to go straight on through, and his beak was on that center line, except the bird looked so stiff, okay? You always cock the head to the right or to the left, depending on what you wanted and the look you're looking for, and it gives it movement right away, because that's how birds are. They rarely look like they're in a straight line, where the head is going straight out, okay? So what I did is I made a copy of the head, and what I mean by the head is it's got the beak, this is that cheek area I talk about, which is this area right in here, okay? And this other line inside is above the eye. Generally the head narrows in above the eye, and the cheek is usually sticks out, and it's a little fatter on the bottom side, okay, from below the eye down. This is the heavier portion, which is your cheek area. So what I did is I outlined exactly what I have originally, and you can see, I'm going to put this, you have the center line of the body, and then you have a center line of what I call the head, okay? This is the head center line. This is the body center line. There's two different center lines, okay? At this point, right in here, is where they cross over. And what I did is you can line this up to where the center line is going this way, and then the head center line is going this way, okay? And what I did is I drew an outline of the head, just the head. This is the cheek area here. This inner line is like at the eye or above. It narrows in, okay? It's just the nature of most birds. They're usually thinner at the top, wider at the cheek. And it's still not picking up the body or the breast area down below, okay? That's just out here. I don't worry about that. What we're trying to do now is position the head. Now, I happen to pick this angle. It comes this way, and then it turns. Now, if you didn't like that, you can lay this right on the center line of the body, and where it turns on the head, like right here, and you got the exact same spot. Say you didn't like that angle. You could just turn this around and move that head, the angle this way. And maybe that is a look you're trying to get at, okay? Or you can even do this. You can even turn it. Let me get rid of some of my junk here. And you can turn this some more. You can spin this head around like so. You could have it 90 degrees to the body, okay? And birds are even capable of even turning this even more. It can look back on itself a little bit, like this. And some birds tuck their heads their feathers that are on the mantle. Certain birds do that. Okay, I think like the sandpiper can tuck its beak into the feathers and sleep like on one leg or something like that. So it depends on the bird. Now, if you didn't like what position I had on this side, you can swing this the opposite way. Let me turn this around, and you can have the head go that way. So you don't always have to live with my pattern. Now, when you do order a kit, I'm usually giving it to you the way the pattern's set up, okay? But if you have another position you want, you're going to have to let me know that. And you're going to have to provide me with how you want that set up, okay? In case you want to change it. But what I'm trying to tell you right now is you can do this. And if you have the capability of cutting these blanks out, and even in my videos, I do show you how to go from a block of wood, cutting these out, okay? I show you how to do that. So I'm not leaving you in the lurch to say that you can, if you have the bandsaw, you can cut these things out and do it the way you want. So this is the head, and the head can be positioned a lot of different ways. Now, I'm going to go and show you some craziness that I've done. Now, over the years, my cardinal pattern is like this. And this is the profile. This is the top view. You see me angle that way. Here's a view looking straight into the front of this. Okay, and this is like the underneath side of the tail where you can see the rump and so on. Okay, now this is like a standard position I pick for the cardinal. Okay, and this has like a drop wing. Okay, see it, and what I mean by drop wing is a cardinal, instead of having the wings drop to the side, and I've done it on the kinglet, you can see the drop wings here and here, they drop off to the side. The cardinal, I had a drop wing. The wings went down on the side. But this is what I've done another way. Here is a wing that came together, okay? And in a lot of cases, I'm going to even show you with the chickadee, these wings crisscross, okay? This side is on top of those feathers there. So here's the center line going down, but actually this wing is encroaching a little bit past the center line, and these feathers coming in here, along here, are underneath these, okay? So you're only seeing a portion of these right here on the center. And a lot of birds do this, but you can change these positions, and they can too, you know? And it just depends on what you see, what you want to try to create, okay? Same way with the wings. I pick a certain width for the wings, but that doesn't have to be that way. And the other thing too is, here's, this was a crazy one I did. If you get the cardinal, you see the width here. And if you look at this one, I'll put this one over here. Hope you could see them both. This one and this one and this one and this one is much bigger. And the reason why this one is much bigger, at the time, the head is okay, except that I made it 90 degrees to the body, okay? And I wanted a certain look. Now, I did this as a winter scene for this cardinal. I pulled the feathers in. I did not do a drop wing. You can see the wings are looking like they're in tight, and they're not down on its side like this, okay? But I didn't make them as tight or coming across like with the chickadee. I didn't do that. I kept separation, and you can do that too, okay? And then what I also did is I made this wider. If you look at the width of this and you measure it, I measured this, probably gave it probably a good ½ inch more. So I made this fatter up in here rather than the way it was originally, okay? And because it's a winter scene I was trying to go for, this, they can fluff up their feathers and they can make themselves look fatter, and it insulates them somewhat from the weather, okay? And when I got done with this setting, I had it mounted on a branch, and then I sprinkled snow on it, okay, because I have snow, if anybody needs it, I have it, where you just sprinkle it on, and it adheres to the bird, and you can have a winter scene, okay? And it's another charming way of showing a cardinal, okay? And again, here's, you're looking at heads here. Let me see if I can get this into the camera here. See, I made this head a little bit wider, and this one, and it almost like it was pyramidal somewhat, and this one was narrowed in. So I fluffed up a lot. I take a little license. But this is going to extremes, which I wouldn't start you out on. I'd say stay with the regular cardinal. As you progress on, you can jump into something like this, or maybe you're ready to go there now. I don't know, but I change things around, and that's what I'm trying to show you. And in some cases, now here's another thing too. This is what I call like a standard tail for the cardinal. And this one I pulled in tight. So this is a lot smaller than this one. And it's what it can do. And in some cases, you can make them even go out further. You can get really wide on these, okay? So it depends on what you're trying to show or how you want to show it. And don't feel as though you're always locked into something. You will be if you get my kits, because I'm going to cut it to a certain position, that we're trying to achieve. And we can't accommodate everything, but we try to do the best we can. So that is one of the things I do. I establish the length first. So I have 2 parallel lines that are given to me in a book of what the length should be. And don't always go by one book, because you'll get variations in length. Just like humans, we all vary, and so do birds, okay? So you could see that I dotted this in because we were actually making this one here, and in a sense, I'm pulling the tail down here. Here's the tail that was up, which is what we had here. Then you could lower it to there, or you can lower it right off of this back, which a lot of birds are at, and you can lower the tail too, okay? So the tail, in some cases, in normal, would be down here, okay? So that's what I'm trying to show you. These are just dotted positions from what the original was, okay? And this wing here, if I put this over here, it pulled up more. Okay, this came up when you're crisscrossing them. Okay, and this is what I mean by crisscrossing. Here's the one we used, and this is what I call a drop wing. It drops down on its side, and then you can see there's spacing opening up here. So I copied most of that, and here's the front end. I kept that the same. The width is the same. And if I get my center line in, you could see where the drop wing was at here. Now, this moved over to here, and this one moved over to there. So this is where they pull it in closed, okay? And in some cases, you can even expand the tail as far as the width, how far out they go sometime, and bring it in sometime. So nothing's cast in concrete that you can't make changes. And the bird will do that all by itself too, okay? So once you expand this, that means you got to expand this view too, which is the bottom one, okay? And all it is just making it the width between this side to that side down here, you know, to keep it the same. And that's the only thing you got to do, okay? And I use a lot of times the tracing paper to come up with these different positions that I'm trying to achieve, okay? And if you've done the bird several times, or you're doing a pair and you want to have one facing one way and one facing another way, yeah, you may want to change one to a drop wing, another one to pulling in the wings tight. You could do that all in the same setting, and it's the same bird, but you show different positions. And the head could be turned to the right, and the other one could be turned to the left. So you can change things. So I want to get that in mind. But the main thing is the length is the length always. And it's usually from the tip of the beak to the tail. That is what the reference for most birds, they're giving you from the tip of the beak to the end of the wing. End of the tail. I'll get it right. Now, one other thing I want to try to get you to help you out is everybody always has trouble because I don't always show it on my patterns. Where do you put the feet? A general rule of thumb is if you got a distance between here and here, and you go halfway, and I'm just going to eyeball this right now, I would say the feet are coming out this way, halfway, between here and here. And then it kicks down, okay? Then this goes into the base, and your toes are sticking out this way, okay? So you can't always go too far wrong. Now, sometimes you have to change this slightly. You may want to have one foot forward of this and then down, because maybe your piece that you're mounting it on, a piece of driftwood or a branch, you may have to offset the leg a little bit. So you got to keep that in mind when you're doing a setting. You just don't arbitrarily go into the breast area and say, okay, boom, it's here and here. And here's my rule of thumb for the breast area, okay? Let's see if I could do this easily. I'm going to look at this as this is my breast area, even though it's the top view. The width of the body is here, okay? And if we were trying to say we're looking through and seeing where the feet are going to go, it's between here and here, halfway. We'll say right here, okay, which is 50% the distance either way. Then you come out. In general, you have breast feathers that are cupping in sometime, and you're maybe in this way, and you may be a little bit in this way. So I would say you don't want to get too much out to the outer edge, but a lot of times it depends on the size of the bird. You could come out like 3/8 and put a dot there, and 3/8 and put a dot here from the center out. And you're probably in the ballpark with the idea, the hopes that when the leg gets down to the base, it's going to fit on. If the case may be that you're having an irregular piece of wood that just isn't going to allow you to do that, you don't always want to drill that right there. You want to maybe move that up a little bit and drill a hole. This is in the belly now, not the back. And consider where this one goes, to balance it, because you don't want a bird looking like it's on its side and stuff like that. So keep that in mind as well. But I try to do different things on different birds along the way, and this is what I'm trying to explain to you. And here's like another bird I did. This was a Cape May warbler. Now, here, this gets a little tricky, and I wouldn't start anybody out in the beginning if you're just starting to do birds. It's better to do a closed beak rather than an open beak, because this is challenging. Not only do you have this, but this is hollowed. So you got to hollow this out inside. So when you're looking down on this, you have this wedge, like where it's coming out like this. You got to come in and hollow all this out in here. And you almost have to create a little throat back in here. And then you also have to hollow this out, which gets really thin too. So it's a lot more work, and opening a beak is a little bit of a challenge, and you got to get some. I don't know if we use the X-Acto knives or what, but I can grind pretty good with the micro grinders and get this in. But for some, they don't have the steady hand or something like that. It gets really tricky because it gets really thin in here, and you don't want to blow through your beak, and create that. So you have to hollow this out inside like this. And then you also have to make a little bit of a hollow in here to give it a throat look, okay? But again, and here we go again, this is a drop wing and stuff like that. Now, if I wanted to, I could even come in on this bird and have expanded the wing out to here, okay? And just spread them out a little bit more, okay? There's nothing that says I can't do that. And birds will do that sometimes. They'll open that up. So you can expand these, but you see how the shapes are? See, these are not quite, they're a little short, but they come around. If you look at the chickadee, it has a center feather, and then it comes up and around. Let's go with the kinglet. The kinglet has like a V in it, okay? It comes down and comes out. So if you can keep this format, to what the bird looks like in the tail end, you can still expand them out. You can bring this out to here, okay? You can expand them more. There's nothing that says you can't open them up, and you have more spacing between these feathers, okay? So this will change. Most of the time, this isn't, unless you're doing it pulled in, okay, like we were showing here. You go to pull them in, it's going to look like this. See, where you have one laying over the other. So just want to let you know there's a lot of different ways of going here. So hang in there 1 second. I'll be right with you. Okay, well, what I'm suggesting is for those who have a bandsaw or want to change patterns in the way I showed you, you can create these. And I'm also going to say to you, I mentioned that if you have a bandsaw, you could do this. I'm also going to make this offer to you too. Besides the patterns I have, and if you are doing a bird, maybe from my pattern or something like that, or your own, and you want to change it and you need a blank cut out, I will cut them out for you, okay? And we could do it that way. And you could come up with your own pattern, and if you electronically send it to me, yeah, we could work it that way, and then I could ship you out the blank and so on. And, you know, I sell the blanks, but hey, I could make whatever one you may need, you know, and charge you accordingly with the prices I have. So just to give you an idea, there's not that much magic to this, but you could see what I've done. I try to use the tracing paper. Now, the one thing I did not talk to you about is when you're making the pattern, you want to get a piece of cardboard or something like that. And most of the patterns, once I get it finalized, like this one here, where you have your wings crossed or something like that, what I'll do is I'll ink these in so that I have them pretty good. I'll use the Sharpie has, let's see if I can find one here. I wouldn't use a ball pen. Sharpie has these smaller pens, and they have a real fine point. You can go just like you did with the pencil work over it. And then what you could do is you get graphite paper, which you can get at any, what's in a craft show, a craft store, I should say. And then what you do is you lay this down on a piece of paper, clean piece of paper, put this down, and you want it on cardboard, not paper. It has some stiffness to it so that when you do run your pencil around, when you're transferring it onto wood, that has some stiffness to it. And you could come in and get the outline, and you know, whenever I do a video, you'll see exactly how I do it. Once I get a pattern, I cut this out to the outline, and that's my pattern. Okay, it's either in the profile position or the top view, and I make both. And this is what I do. But I cut the profile out first, and then I do the top view after I cut it out. And I show you how to do all this. But just wanted to give you an idea on how to do it. You want to use the graphite paper to do the transferring of your drawing the way you want the position of the bird onto a piece of cardboard, okay? And graphite paper is perfect. Now, you want to get the right side down that has the graphite side, and then once you go on, check it out, you know, make sure you're holding it steady, and you can look underneath to see if it transferred. So this is ideal for it. I hope you got something out of this video, and you learned maybe how to change the position of the birds and what have you. And if you have any questions, definitely get back to me. Give me a holler, and I'll try to explain whatever I didn't cover that you may have a question on, okay? So if for those who like to try doing some things like this, or interested in my kits that wanted to do a kinglet or a cardinal or chickadee, excuse me, or any of the patterns that I've done, please write to me, and my email address again is Rauscher, Rauscher, and 7 @gmail.com. I could send you a catalog out. You could take a look and see. Has my prices on there, whatever you may need. And if you don't see what you may be after in the carving world, let me know, because if I have other items besides what's in the catalog. And also, if I don't, I can at least recommend you to where I think is a good buy to get certain things. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope it's meaningful for you, and I'll see you on the next video. And at that time, I think what I'm going to end up doing, just to give you a heads up, I'm going to probably do a blue jay full size. So get ready for that one. That's coming down the road here very soon. Okay, so see you on the next video, and I hope you enjoyed this one too.